Okay, guys, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Okay, I feel like everything is sorted. My network is back. I was just changing to a network that even if the electricity just decide to cut off, I'll still be connected.
Okay.
Okay, we're just gonna start by doing a quick recap of everything that we covered from lesson 1 to lesson 4, and then after that, we're gonna start with lesson 5. So if you have got any question, this will be the time to ask that question in terms of both everything that we covered. So this is just a recap from lesson 1 to lesson 4. So I'm just going to summarize everything that is here, and then if you have got a question, then you can ask it. So here it says that before any transaction can be transferred to the financial statement, it have to be summarized, organized, and recorded. And every transaction has an effect on the financial position of the enterprise, and transaction must be classified, recorded, summarized to show its effect on the financial position of the business. And all transactions are recorded in two separate accounts, and there is an account for each asset, liability, and equity item. There also an account for each income and expense item, and all these accounts are classified and grouped together in the general ledger. So in summary of what is being said here is to say that we have covered the accounting equation, which identifies that in terms of recording financial information within a company, we need to make sure that all the transactions that occur within the company are recorded. And when they are recorded, all the transaction or our books have to balance to make sure that whatever goes out it's equal to what actually came in. And if we are talking about expenses incurred to generate revenue, we have to generate revenue to cover those expenses, and that income will be of the owner. And we did also learn in terms that for each and every transaction it will have a number of effects in terms of the accounting equation, and the transaction can have multiple effects on the accounting equation, including that it might increase both sides, which includes the left side and the right side, where the left side we are referring to the assets and the right side we are referring to owner's equity plus liability. And either the second effect is that one transaction can actually increase both sides, and another one, the third one, is that one transaction might decrease both sides, and the fourth one is that one transaction might decrease one side and increase one side again. So those are the transaction effects of one transaction. And then we also learned that when we summarize the transaction, we have to actually get to ask ourselves three questions based on that transaction. And then while we're asking ourselves, we're also recording that transaction, where we get to ask ourselves what happened. Therefore, we have to make certain that we understand this event that took place or the transaction that took place. And then the second question was to say which accounts were affected, and under which accounts were affected, we need to identify the two accounts affected. And then I also mentioned that they can be the minimum accounts to be affected by one transaction. It's two, but they are not limited to two. They can be two and more, meaning that they can be above, they can be exactly four transactions affected, four accounts affected by one transaction. For example, a sales account, a sales transaction. So a sales transaction will affect your bank, will affect your sales, will affect your cost of sales, and will affect your inventory. So this type of account actually gets to affect for account. This type of transaction affects for account. And then we also did cover that once you're able to identify this account, you will have to classify them to say whether this account are an assets, income, expense, liability, or equity. And then once you identify that, we then for identify to say what is the effect of this account on the accounting equation. Is it increasing that account or decreasing the account? And then which leads to us then moving towards to what we call the general ledger, the T account. where under the general ledger we therefore identify that in terms of the accounting standards, the assets and the expenses and the drawings account, they both increase on the debit side and decrease on the credit side. And then we also learned that the equity, the liability, the income, they both increase on the credit side and decrease on the debit side. And therefore, once we're able to classify all of those accounts, we are able to know which account is going to be debited and which account is going to be credited. So, and we also mentioned that the general ledger account records each and every transaction that have occurred that affects that account. So, meaning that if there are multiple transactions occurring and they're recurring in the business that affect that account, all those information or all those transactions will be recorded within that account, and that account will be closed off at the end of the financial period or at the end of the month. And we did mention that we have got balance sheet accounts and we've got the nominal accounts within the general ledger, where all the balance sheet account will be reflected in your trial balance first, and therefore the nominal account later on. And the balance sheet accounts, we only calculate the balances, and then the nominal account we only do the totals, and those totals are therefore transferred to our trial balance. And from trial balance we take those total and prepare our financial statements. And if before we prepare the financial statements, or when already we're done with the financial statement, and there are extra additional transactions that were not recorded, we're gonna do what we call post journal transactions and record them again within the general ledger and all our cash books, and and reflect the changes within our trial balance. And from our trial balance we're gonna go back to our financial statement. So yet continue to say that when we enter something on the left side of the account, this is known as a debit account, as debiting the account, and a debit entry is put through or through the account is debited. So this is just busy explaining everything that I've just mentioned, but the summary it's very long, so that's why I decided to just go with the summary that it's much easier to understand. And the system that is being used to say that for each and every transaction it affects to account, we know that from the beginning that we learned that this is known as the double entry system. So any question based on just everything that I've just mentioned, that is covering lesson 1 to lesson 4?
No, not on my side.
Tembe?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, and then we're gonna move towards financial position of an enterprise. So previously I mentioned that when you're preparing a statement of financial position, it's actually just a summary of your accounting equation. On your accounting equation, you're gonna have your assets, and then you're gonna have accounts within your assets where you're gonna be recording all the informations. And once you are done with recording all of those information within those accounts, you're gonna calculate their balances. And then once you calculate their balances, those balances are the ones that are only transferred to the statement of financial position coming from your trial balance. So your statement of financial position is just a summary of everything that actually happened in your accounting equation. And when you prepare this statement of financial position, the assets should be equals to what your equity and your liability combined together. So under your assets, you're gonna classify to say that these are your non-current assets, these are your current assets. If you don't classify, you are still allowed to do so, but because of the new current standard that we are always adapting, the international financial reporting standard, you will be requiring investor to invest in your company, so they will need to be able to see the all type of assets to say that these are your non-current assets, these are your non-current assets, which are your, for example, your building equipment and your other investment within other companies or within the bank, to say that okay, this is the investment this person made. And then your current assets, the ones that you use on a daily basis to run the business, and then you're gonna have then your whole total assets. So all of these combined should be exactly equal to your liabilities and equity, because your liabilities and equity are the ones that are used to finance these assets. For example, the capital that the owner bring to the company is the one that is also used to buy those assets. So we're gonna need to see the equity side. So this is how much the owner invested, this is how much the owner took from in terms of the what we call drawings account. And then liability, we're gonna also have got the current liabilities and non-current liabilities, to say that under this kind of current liabilities, these are our long-term debt that we took to fund our non-current assets, because these are long-term assets. And then we also have got current liabilities, which we use to fund our current assets. And so when it comes to current assets and current liabilities, they all fund each other in similar way. Current, you only take short-term debts to fund short-term assets, because you'll have to actually sell those short-term assets within a short space and then be able to make more money and repay back the short-term. So you cannot take the long-term to buy short-term assets and then repay back the long term. So normally, if you're gonna do that, meaning that the majority or the 60% of your money have to go to your long-term assets and 40% to your short-term assets, not all of it towards your short-term assets. So here it says that when you sell a stock item, there will be a change in the stock and there's going to be a change in the cash or debtors. And when you buy stock, the stock is going to change and there is going to be change in the cash or creditors account, depending on whether you buy stock. So this is just giving in a quick example in terms of how the accounts gets to be affected. But I've already covered that. And then here I've just got a mini activity just to make sure that you guys fully understood what we did last time. So this time I'm not going to ask you in terms of the effects, but you guys are just going to tell me in terms of what account are actually supposed to be debited and which account is supposed to be credited. So just get your pens out and your scribblers or your notebook, and then I'm just going to give you 4 minutes, unless you just want us to do it because if your mind is still fresh on it. Which one do you guys prefer?
I don't mind the practice.
You want to try it first and then we do it together?
I don't mind if it's just the account debited and the account credited. We can try, yeah, just like a quick one.
Okay, let's start with you on the first one.
Okay.
It says sell advertising space for cash. So
Okay.
I'll need two accounts that are affected, and then you'll tell me
Uh,
which one is debited and which one is credited.
okay. So the accounts that'll be affected would be inventory and bank.
Sell advertising space for cash.
Because isn't the advertising space what we're selling?
Yes. Okay, let me just make this one clear because I see that it's a bit different from what we did. So assume that you are actually running a media company where you get to have a live, sort of like a live playing billboard where it's gonna be playing. People are gonna be passing and seeing adverts coming in.
Okay,
So
so it's
you
not like
actually
a
sell slots.
building.
So it's not exactly sort of like a stock.
So it's more of an asset.
Yeah, so it's more of like that.
Okay.
So
Then in that case, the account that will be debited will be assets.
So, okay, classify the two accounts first. Identify which two accounts.
Oh, okay, so the two accounts is how do I break down assets? Um,
So, in summary, the keywords here it's this and this.
see, though, I'm struggling with the cell. I'm
Okay,
not entirely sure how to classify the cell
okay,
because
let's
I say
assume.
cost of sales,
So, yes, the sales will be affected. That's one account.
and then bank, isn't it?
Yes, and bank will also be affected because you're actually receiving cash.
Yes.
Then now the question is, which account should we be debiting and which account should we be debiting, and what is the reason behind that?
Okay, so the account that will be debited will be bank.
Okay, that's correct.
And the cost of sales.
Nope.
Oh, see, I'm not sure
You
how to
just mentioned
define
the account not so long ago.
sales.
Yes.
Oh,
So
just sales. Okay,
yes.
and then sales will be credited.
Yes. So with this one, I'm just gonna bring something to light to you guys. So we don't normally have when you're selling something. Remember, you can render a service instead of selling items.
Yes.
For example, if you are a journalist, you don't have stock. You are the product.
Yes.
So if they ask you to go and say, come and present this, we have got an incident that happened, like now that happened of the car accident. We want you to make a report. We're gonna pay you 50,000 for that.
Okay.
For that. So when
What?
you go there, you actually render that service. So it's also sort of like you actually sold yourself to go and do the job, and then they pay you.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so this is what actually happens. So, meaning that you're gonna go and say, okay, you render the service for cash. So, meaning that when you come to your books, you're gonna have services rendered account, and you're gonna have your bank account affected. So,
Okay.
with the example that is given here to say that sell advertising space for cash. So, if you're running a media company which have billboards, which also have got those playing billboards, like if you're walking around, sometimes you'll find those big screen having adverts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those big screen is what we call those were advertising equipment. So when you
Yes.
sell those things, you are selling a space to say that we can give you a 2 minute slot for 50,000 a day because 1 million people gets to see this thing in a day. They pass cars that are passing here, they are over 1 million in a day. So you're
Okay. It's
gonna
not like a
pay
tangible
50,000.
product.
So this
It's a
is mean that
service.
you are just selling a space. So you're gonna go and say sales, and that sales will be from advertising space.
Okay.
Yeah, so meaning that your sale will go down, meaning that you want to have what we call inventory. It's sort of
So
like a
under the key
service.
account, it'll say sales and then it'll say advertising space in the credit column.
Yes.
Okay.
No, in the credit column it's gonna say bank because the other account that is affected is bank. So the sales account that you're gonna create.
Yes.
Yes, so what you actually do is just that you open brackets and say advertising space to indicate the type of sales. If you're gonna be selling other items beside advertising space.
Then I thought you said the bank would be debited.
Yes, bank is gonna be debited. So when you write on the bank there, when you say what you're gonna write on the debit side of the bank, you're gonna write on this specific month and year, this specific date.
Yes.
Then you're gonna go and say this is the sales for advertising space.
Yes.
So when you write it, I'm just gonna end the slideshow so that I can actually get to show you something, how you're gonna actually write it. So normally under the bank account, let's say this was the bank account we are writing the transaction.
Yes.
So you are going to say sales and you're gonna do this and say advertising space. So this is what you're gonna write within the bank account.
Yes.
So because this is not the only product that you're actually what offering
Selling.
to the clients.
Yeah.
So if it's sales based on goods, that's when you're gonna go and say what? Sales. And then that sales is gonna just be sales without anything. If you want to specify, you'll specify the type of
Okay.
product
I
that you
see.
actually get to sell.
Understood.
Okay, so on this one, let me see if I can actually put this in a different view. without going on slideshow and see no, this won't work. I wonder what's happening with my laptop. It's freezing a bit. So we're gonna go back to normal view. Okay, tell me if this is a bit better so that I can be able to type in.
I can see.
And Tembelishe?
Yes, I can also see.
Okay, the way am I just want to see that. Let me also open Teams on the other side so that I can be able to see what's actually happening. Okay, we're here. So you said the account, so we said the account that will be debited will be bank,
Yes.
and then the account will be credited will be sales.
Yes.
So meaning that when we're debiting bank, we're saying that our bank account is going up because it increased on the debit side, and since the sale is an income and income increase on the credit side, so we're saying that the sales is also increasing.
Yes.
So the second one, it's for you, Tembelishe, to answer. We buy goods on credit.
Okay, so I'm actually way behind because I haven't been attending due to my schedule at work. So I'm struggling a bit. But what I think will be debited is the equipment for the goods on this transaction.
So it's gonna be inventory. So since we bought stock.
Oh, it's going to be inventory for stock.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and which account are we crediting?
Cost of sales.
Nope.
I want to say bank because we're buying goods on credit.
The bank doesn't get to be affected if you didn't actually pay anything.
Okay.
So if you go right now and buy clothes with your Woolworth account, what is actually happening there?
If I buy it with credits or with cash.
Credit.
So you get the clothes, but you pay later for the clothes. You don't pay immediately at the till.
So it's the same thing with this transaction to say if you are a company and your company goes and buy goods on credit. So what is actually happening? The same scenario is happening to the company. Now the only thing that we need is to identify the account. We already identify one that we're actually buying inventory. So our inventory account will be affected. Then now what is the second account to be affected?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Ruby, do you mind assisting?
As far as I'm aware, it's goods that's affected and accounts receivable.
You're almost there, but not account receivable.
Oh, sorry, I'm buying on credit. So sorry, I thought it was a customer. It's accounts payable.
Yes, so normally it will be account payable. So what actually happened is that here, Tembelish, is that what we do is that there are gonna be scenarios like this or transaction like this happening. So the most important thing is that you need to be able to identify types of accounts to say that, okay, we have got list of accounts on page 26 to say that these are the list of accounts within um, the equity, and some of those falls within expenses, some of those falls within income, and then we've got the liabilities where we also have got types of accounts within the liabilities, and we've got the assets where we've got types of account within the assets. So the only thing that is not there on the book, I think, is to actually explain each and every account to say what is this account. But I managed to explain the few to say that when you buy on credit, your account payable will be affected. So we refer it as an account payable. So that account will be affected, and the other account that will be affected, it will be whatever item that you're actually buying. So under this one, it says buy goods on credit, meaning that our credit will actually be affected, and then our inventory will be affected. And I also mentioned that some of the scenarios, when you read them, you will find that there are keywords there that will get to determine which two accounts are actually affected. So it says that on credit. So when it says credit, instead of calling it account payable, you can say creditors, creditors, or what we call trade creditors, or there is account payable, trade payables, and we also have got trade creditors. So you can call it trade creditors. So it is still the right name within the accounting terminologies. And then the other account that is affected here, it's goods. So just that they use the words goods instead of inventory. So it depends on which side you are in, where and what terminology are you preferring, or what terminology is being used within that book. So those are the main principles behind being able to identify the two accounts. So once you read the statement, the moment it says paid, then it's already giving you an idea to say that once something is already paid, it means that cash was used. But if something is bought, then the only question that you need to ask, was it bought on cash or on credit? But if it says pay, automatically that's cash going out, because there's no payment that will be made on credit unless the word will just say you bought the following on credit. It won't say you pay the following on credit. That terminology won't work, because once you mention the word pay, it means money went out. So we've got the third one. It says make payment to municipality water and electricity account. So what I'm gonna do on this one is that one have to mention one account and the other one account, and then the rest we're just gonna do them together. So let's
Sure.
start with Tembelishe. First account will be affected. Hello.
I'm sorry. It would be payment.
Okay,
Me.
but payment, which account is that? Where do we record our payment?
Our payment would be. I'm not sure. Hey.
Okay, I see, meaning that maybe you might not have yet catched up with the lessons.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you time on that one. So Ruby, do you mind assisting?
For make payments to municipality.
Yes, water and electricity.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, so we make a payment It's an expense. Okay, so what transaction is taking place is that we're making a payment from the business account to the municipality to pay for water and electricity.
100%.
Accounts that should be affected will be bank
Okay.
and expenses.
Expenses is a category. Which account? You are still right.
Oh, can we say water and electricity, or do we have to say municipality?
No, you have to say water and electricity because that is the account.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then water and electricity is the account. So the accounts of the accounting equation that are affected are payment, which comes from bank, but it's decreasing.
Okay.
So it's going to be on the debit side.
Which account are we debiting?
We're going to debit bank.
You're saying
Because are we not paying for the are we not paying for water and electricity from the bank, from
Yes,
the account?
we are paying from the bank using our bank account. So what will be the effect on our bank account?
Oh, sorry, it's credited.
Okay. So it's gonna be credited, and then what about the account debited?
The account debited will be expenses.
And reason behind that?
While water and electricity is a monthly expense, I'm assuming.
And while it's a monthly expense or classified as an expense, what do we know about expense?
Expenses are debited on the right and credited on the left.
Yeah, all accounts are debited and
Increases
credited.
on the debit and decreases on the credit.
All right, that's the right way. So normally, so these are the things that you still have to make sure that you understand them. You don't have to actually open the book or page the book. Just
It's
understand the
just
terminology behind to say that, okay, let me take this, break down the scenario in its simplest format so that I can understand the event that took place. So that is the first thing you do. Then the second thing is then identifying the accounts. So normally I always mention that one account will always be there, water and electricity.
yes.
So you can write municipality, but you need to specify what are you paying to the municipality.
Okay.
So if you write municipality, you need to open bracket and say water and electricity. So that account will be municipality, water and electricity, because you might be paying for rates or you might be paying for sewage. So you need to identify. And then the second account, we say that is the bank account. So the moment we are making payment to municipality, so it didn't mention anything related to credit, so meaning that we are using our bank account. So the moment I said payment, just remember we are using bank. So meaning that our money, there is an outflow of cash from our bank account. So we need to
Yes.
reflect that within our bank account. And our bank account is an asset, it decreases on the credit side. So meaning that we are going to credit the bank account.
Yes.
So once we create a bank account, which means that it leaves us with the other account that should be debited, which is going to
Which
be
is
water
water.
and electricity. And then now we move to the other one. It says buy goods for cash. So if you're buying inventory for cash, so it means that already money is going out of the business.
Yes.
But while it's going out of the business, you are buying what? Inventory or stock. So you can refer it as inventory or stock account. So it doesn't matter the terminology, all of the terminology are still correct. So, but the one that we normally use these days is inventory. So I'm gonna be referring mostly to inventory. So the account, since the bank account is decreasing and there is outflow of cash, we're gonna also credit what? The bank account. And then we're
Yeah.
gonna debit what? Inventory. So we're only debiting inventory because inventory is an asset, and while it's an asset, it is increasing and assets increase on the debit side. So we have to debit it so that we show the effect of increasing inventory. And then here now it says sells goods on credit. So if you sell goods on credit, you didn't receive the cash, so your bank account will not be affected. So meaning that if the bank is not affected when we're selling goods, the only account that is affected is our account receivable. So meaning
Yes.
that the people that gets to owe us, they now owe us more because they are buying on credit. So meaning that we need to start with say account receivable. This is an asset account. So meaning that these people they are increasing their debt towards us. So meaning that if it's increasing and it's an asset, so the meaning that we are going to debit what? Account receivable. And then after that, we identify the second account to be sales since we are actually selling. So meaning that we are going to credit sales, which is an income that increase on the credit side. So that our sales are going up. And then we've got the pay creditors. So paying creditors, meaning that we bought lastly on credit. So we didn't pay. So if we bought on credit, therefore we'll have to pay it later on. So now we're actually paying creditors. So which are the people that we owe. So once we're paying those guys, it means that now money there is still an outflow of money from the business. So we are paying meaning that our bank account is decreasing. The balance within our bank account is decreasing. So therefore we're gonna credit what? The bank
Credits.
account.
Yes.
And then the other account that will also have an effect is gonna be the account payable. So the account payable decreases on the debit side since we are reducing our debt from our creditors. Therefore, we expect the balance to go down. So therefore, that account decrease on the debit side. So we're gonna debit it. So that's gonna be account payables. And then the last one, it says the owner contributed additional capital to the business. So this one is a simple and straightforward. So meaning that under this one, the owner is bringing more money to the business to fund either an expansion of the business or either to fund a new project that the business wants to to start over or to start with. So meaning that we're gonna have our bank account increasing. We're gonna have the owner's capital account as well increasing. So the bank is an asset, it increases on the debit side, meaning that we're going to debit the bank. And
Yes.
then the capital account is an owner's equity account, it increases on the credit side. So we're gonna go and credit what? The capital account and then write the owner of the business. So if the owner of the business is H, so we're gonna write capital H to say that this is the capital contribution coming from H. If there are two business owners who are sharing the business, so each and everyone will have its own capital account. But at the end, the balance have to be added at once and transferred to the statement of financial position as one, not separated.
Okay.
Okay, that is all in terms of the accounting equation. So if you find yourself having this kind of effects or transaction, so you need to be able to perform this even without writing it down, but maybe in your mind and say, okay, this is what is actually happening. So the best way to actually get to understand the accounting equation is to always treat yourself as the business. So if anything that is happening or a transaction is occurring and that transaction doesn't affect the business, you don't do anything about it. But the moment it affects the business, then you ask yourself which accounts within my business have been affected. And then how is this account affected? Is it increasing or decreasing? And is this account an assets, liability, equity? If it's under the equity, is it income, expense, capital, or drawings? So those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. So I'm gonna go back to the presentation mode, and then we're gonna move forward.
Sure.
So previously we did a formative assessment briefing that you guys are going to be writing your summative, what we call a formative assessment, which is going to be a sit-in test. So as I haven't still yet gotten the date, and I'm still yet to talk to the academic manager in terms of the hours allocated to see if they can be increased to 2 hours 30 minutes. And another thing is that today's lesson, it's all going to be mathematics. So we're going to be starting from page 60 to 67. So it's all about the BODMAS, the laws that have to be applied in mathematics, as well as finding the missing number, which is the most important role in finance. We always get to find some files missing, some transaction not recorded or misplaced and not recorded, and therefore we actually have to identify the figure of that amount. So that's where finding the missing number or finding the missing figure comes into play. So we're gonna play it first in terms of mathematics, and then play it then around within a finance scenario, where you get to actually get to see the importance of playing around with numbers within that. It's important to understand some of the terminologies within maths that gets to be applied in finance. So these are the learning outcome of lesson number 5, is that you need to be able to understand the order of operation, which is the BODMAS, which I have explained in lesson number 1. It will just be a repeat. And then we're also gonna talk in terms of the laws that governs the mathematic standard, or I'll just say the standard of mathematics. And then we're gonna do the missing figures, and then we're gonna do the average, we're gonna do the powers, we're gonna do the exponents. Powers and exponent are one thing, and then we're gonna do the roots, and then later on the mental arithmetic, square and square roots, and see how we get to play around within the powers and the square roots, how they get to be used together in one transaction or equation. So when you get time, please click on this link, watch every video. They will be explaining more in terms of the powers, the exponent, and the roots. So they are also simplified videos. So please make sure you click the links and then see some of the videos that are there. So first thing first, we're gonna be talking in terms of the BODMAS operation algorithm. So let me just quickly go and look for the textbook soft copy and see if I can find it, and then we're gonna switch from slides to textbook, and then once we're done, come back this side and see what is next, just like that, so that I get to explain everything much better to you guys while we are also seeing it, because I don't want you guys for me to read a book this side and you guys try to look for which line am I actually reading from. So just a quick let's see, and please note that this book I am not share it because of some policies that we signed. So it is from an ebook, so they just share it to us because we're actually lecturing, and they say we can't actually share this out because of a number of things. And the book also have got as you can see, it's coming from an ebook. So instead of buying the original book, you can still buy an ebook, which is still much cheaper compared to a hard copy. But I believe you already have the soft copy. So we're on page 60. Okay, this is where we start with our basic mathematics. So here it says that it just giving an overview how the importance of understanding what we are going to do now in terms of finance and how it affects your real life. So it doesn't only play the role in finance, but it also play another role in your daily activities, even though it's not related to finance. So here it says, gives an example based on the graphic designer to say that a graphic designer who use a coordinate system when doing their layout, an in-depth understanding of scale and proportion of paramount. Therefore, mathematics is used by the graphic designer when calculating an image resolution. So if the designer has a client who is asking whether or not the photo is good, this can be done very quickly using a computer software such as the Photoshop, Canvas, but he still has to know where to insert the numbers and what also the numbers mean, to say, okay, based on your photo, the scale of your photo, to say if we maximize it to fit this billboard, which is actually this meter squared, this photo will be stretched to a point that it will no longer be visible. So therefore we need a photo that is taken with this much resolution. So this is all mathematics playing around. So in terms of our first part, we are going to talk about the BODMAS rule, to say that for each and every equation, for each and every calculation that you do in mathematics, you have to apply what we call the BODMAS rule, where the B is for brackets, which is always done first. And then we've got the of, which is also represent the orders, which indicates a multiplication and is next in line after the brackets. So the orders also represent your exponents, your square roots. So if there is a square root within your equation or within your mathematical formula, start by solving those after once you're done with the brackets, and then you move to them. And then later on we do what we call the division and multiplication. So division and multiplication can be done simultaneously if there is a positive or a minus in between the two. So therefore meaning that you can do them simultaneously, and then lastly add or subtract. And then we have got the addition and the subtraction. So the addition is the next in line after the multiplication, and then it also have got the same value or the same weight with the subtraction. So these two you can do them actually what we call simultaneously as well, if the equation is based on that. So this is an example in terms of example 2a based on the BODMAS rule. So what actually happening is that it says have the look at the following and use the BODMAS rule for application. So you have got 5 multiplied by 2, 5 multiplied by in brackets 2 plus 4, it equals to 30. So meaning that when you calculate this to get to 30, which is actually 30. So what you actually go and do is that you first by add everything within the brackets based on the BODMAS rule. After that we look for off if there is off or orders. So we don't have off, so we skip. Do we have division? We don't have division, therefore we'll look for multiplication. There is multiplication after we've done the thing, we've done the calculation inside the brackets, which is 6. So therefore we're going to say 6 multiplied by 5. So 6 multiplied by 5 will give us 30. So if you remember, I did some tricks with you based on the mental arithmetic, to say if you go and say 5 times 5, and the mental arithmetic says 5 times 5 or 5 squared is actually 25. So the moment you say it 5 times 6 is the exactly just adding another 5 on top of 5 times 5. So just adding 1 5, which makes them 6 5 on the other side. So meaning that from 25 plus 5, that's giving us 30. And then the second part is showing when there is off, to say that if there is off, to say 9 plus 1 out of 2 of 10, meaning that 1 out of 2 of 10 is referred as a half of 10. So meaning that we need to calculate the off first by saying 1 out of 2 multiplied by 10, which is gonna be half of 10. So meaning that it's gonna actually give us 5, as it's gonna be 1 out of 2 multiplied by 10, giving us 10 out of 2. So you can still use your scientific calculator or any financial mathematics calculator to still give you 5. And then after that you go and say 5 plus 9, it will give you then 14. So but if you go and say 9 plus 1 out of 2, so you will get a different answer, and your final answer will not actually be 14. So we'll actually therefore be having 9,5 or 9.5. Then after that 9.5, it's gonna go and say 9.5 of 10. So we're gonna get a different answer, which is no longer 14. So therefore, once we apply the BODMAS rule, we get the correct answer or the accurate answer. And then the third example, it says 1 multiplied by 7 plus 8 multiplied by 3. So under this question, we still apply the BODMAS rule. We start with the of brackets, we don't have them. We then move to of or orders, we don't have orders or of. And then we move to division. Do we have any division? Nope. We have multiplication, yes. And where many multiplication do we have? So we've got this multiplication. So we've got the 1 times 7 and we've got the 8 times 3. And then there is a plus in between. So meaning that we'll have to do both the multiplication simultaneously because they have the same weight. So we're gonna go and say 1 times 7 and then we're gonna say the plus and then we're gonna go and say 8 times 3 and then 8 times 3 is to say 8 plus 8 plus 8 3 times. So it's similar to that, therefore we get what we call 24. So therefore we're going to say 7 plus 24, then our final answer will be 31. So that's applying the BODMAS rule. So let me just see, and then okay, in this one we've got the division is to say 18 divided by 3 minus 4 minus 1. So when you calculate this one, you don't actually go and say minus 4 minus 1 giving you minus 5 and then 3 minus 5 and then you lastly do 18 divided by whatever you get. So we start with the division part, which is this part, to say 18 divided by 3 because everything else is a subtraction and division comes before subtraction and subtraction comes last. So we start by dividing everything that is there to divide, to say 18 divided by 3, which is gonna give us 6. And then once you have the 6, you're gonna go and say 6 minus 4 and then it's gonna give you 2 and then you're gonna go and say 2 minus 1, which is gonna give you 1. So this is applying the BODMAS rule. So any question on the BODMAS rule?
Not so full.
So this one is straightforward, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, which means now let's move towards our next working with a divide line on page 62, working with a divide line. So working with the divide line now is to say that we are used to a fraction. So we do know that there is a fraction where we've got 2 divided by 4, which is a normal fraction. But this time when we say working with a divide line, we are saying that there is an equation on top and then in the equation below. So the numerator is actually an equation and the denominator is actually another equation. So how do we get to solve this? So you will still get to solve this. So you will still get to solve this applying the BODMAS rule, but the first thing that you need to do is that since now you are working with a division line, you're gonna start with everything that is on top and then later you're gonna do everything that is on the bottom. But you actually have to apply this all simultaneously for you to be able to perform this at a faster rate. So if you're given a scenario like this or an equation like this and they say please give us the final amount for this, so you're gonna go and say okay, we've got 7 plus 6 multiplied by 3 minus 13 divided by, in brackets, 6 plus 3 multiplied by 6 close brackets divide by 6. So the first thing that we're starting with the top part is to go and say based on the BODMAS rule, the first thing that we're gonna do is do the multiplication, which is 6 times 3 giving us 18. And then from there we're gonna go and say what is the next is the addition. So the addition is gonna be 18 plus 7 then minus 13. So 18 plus 7 25 minus 13, we're gonna have 12 on top. So once we have that 12, then we move to the one in the bottom and say we have got a bracket. So let's start by solving things that are inside the brackets. So while you also solve things inside the bracket, you still apply the BODMAS. Are the brackets inside brackets? No. Then if there is yes, then you start by working with those inside brackets and inside the brackets. So here we don't have brackets inside brackets, so we skip. Do we have of inside brackets? No, we don't have. Do we have division? No. Do you have multiplication? Yes. So we start with multiplication inside the brackets. So we're gonna go and say 3 multiplied by 6, and that will give us 18. Then we say plus um, 6, that will give us 24. Then we're gonna go and say we are done with whatever is inside the brackets, so we can remove the brackets. So therefore we have got 24 now, therefore divide by 6. So 24 divided by 6, that will actually give us 4. So meaning that on our equation now we have got 12 coming from this whole equation, and then we have got 4, meaning that it's 12 divided by 4, meaning that our final answer will be 3. So this is how you break down uh, the activity. So you will start here by this one on top, which is multiplication, giving us 18. Here we start by what is within the brackets, 3 multiplied by 6, still applying the BODMAS, giving us 18 plus 6, giving us 24. And then later on, these are all equal. The plus and minus, you can do them together. You can even go and say 18 minus 3, then plus 7. It will still give you the correct answer to say that it is still 12. Because if you say 18 minus 3, it gives you 5. 5 plus 7, it gives you 12. So plus and minus hold the same weight as long as they are the only ones in the equation. And then here we've got 24 divided by 6 giving us 4, and therefore we have got 12 divided by 4 giving us the final answer 3. So this is working with divide. So we start normally by working everything on top, and then from everything on top you then work everything below. Then after that you find your final answer, or you simplify the equation. So this is some activity that you guys have to perform applying the BODMAS rule. As you can see, there are a lot of information here, so just to practice. So I believe there are no questions on that one. Are there any questions?
No, not yet.
No.
All right, and then now we come to the things that gets to confuse people a lot. Commutative and association and distributive law. So I'm gonna use the textbook because it explains them in a much better way than what is on that side. That side it's only the rules. So if we go that side, we'll only be talking the rules. So in terms of commutative law, is to say that you are allowed to actually swap the numbers that you are working with, as long as you swap them with their sign, and then you still get the same result. So for example, if we are to say 3 multiplied by 4, instead of you writing 3 multiplied by 4, you said 4 multiplied by 3. So you will still get the same answer. And then here it's giving an example to say if it says a plus b, it's the same as saying b plus a. And then when you multiply a times b, it's the same as saying b multiplied by a, as long as you keep the value of that number as it is. If it's a negative number, you switch it with its negative number. And then we've got the association law. So in terms of the association law, it says that the association law says that it does not matter how you group the numbers which you calculate first. For example, we have got a plus b in brackets plus c. So meaning that you can still write this as a plus in brackets b plus c, because everything that is within this equation is being added together, as long as all the figures that are within that equation are having the same value or same are from the same number system, to say that these are all positive numbers. And same applies to multiplication. If everything that you are calculating is multiplication, therefore you can actually do the same to say that this is the same as me saying, if you're saying in bracket a multiplied by b multiplied by c, which is outside bracket, it will still be the same to say a multiplied by c, then later on multiplied by b, because all numbers are being multiplied with each other. So you'll still get to have the same result. So that's what we call the associative law. So normally this kind of application or law, we don't normally you don't won't find them like general. So it's just a general knowledge that you keep in mind, and then you apply it when you are actually doing your financial calculations to say, this is just the same as doing this and that. Someone will just say 50 million multiplied by 5, so you can just go and say like, that's 5 multiplied by 50 million, so meaning that I can just say 50 million 5 times. So it's just giving you that mentality to be able to calculate, um, uh, make calculation actually easier. And then here there are example of the association law. So it only works where there are all numbers are being added together, and it also works when numbers are being multiplied together. And the association law will still work if both numbers are all negative. And then we've got the distributive law. So the distributive law needs careful attention. Here it says that this is what it allows you to do. If we're going to say 3 multiplied by, in brackets, 2 plus 4. So this is an example. Say it's saying 3 lots of 2 plus 4, where the of will therefore change to a multiplication. So we can actually get to summarize this or write it in a different way and distribute these brackets off differently to go and say, sorry, this is to go and say, we can go and say 3 multiplied by 2 plus 3 multiplied by 4. It will still give us the same answer. So if we go and say 2 plus 4, it's 6. And we say 6 times 3, that's 18. So based on this, because of the distribution law, the numbers inside is only the plus. So we can actually distribute this and simplify it, or actually try to just state it in a different way to go and say 3 times 2 plus uh, 4 times 3. So if you say 3 times 2, that's 6. And we say 3 times 4, that's going to be 12. And 12 plus 6, that's going to be 18, which is the same as 6 multiplied by 3. So here it's an example to say 7 multiplied by, in brackets, 2 plus 9. So this can be distributed to go and say 7 multiplied by 2, and then once you go and say 7 multiplied by 2, you can go and say plus 7 multiplied by 9, and then all the answer will end up giving you 77. So you can try that on your side, and I believe it's already there. So it's shown below. 7 times 2 will give us 14, and then 7 times 9 giving us 63. If we add 14 plus 63, we still get 77. So that's what we call the distributive law. So in summary of this, it says that under commutative, you can swap numbers around and still get the same answer, only when you're adding and when you're multiplying. And in terms of associative law, it does not matter how you group the numbers together, but you can regroup them when you're only multiplying and adding, as well as subtracting. And then distributive, you can get the same answer when you are multiplying a number by a group of numbers added together, or do each multiplication separately then add them together. So in summary, I think there is also another summary here on the textbook. Okay, before we get to that, I think on the textbook there is a summary. So here it says that, note, the laws are only applicable to work with addition or multiplication, not division or subtraction. So the commutative law does not work with division, and the association law does not work with subtraction. Because if say minus, as long as this amount is not negative, it won't work. As long as this amount that is inside the bracket is not a negative amount, this won't work. So all of them have to be negative. Because if you say minus 4 minus 9 minus 4, that will be like sort of like adding the negatives and then you multiply with this, so it can actually work. But once there is only negative and a positive mixed combined together like this scenario, it won't actually work at all. And the distributive law does not work with division. So for example, 8 divided by 2 plus 6, so you cannot go and say 8 divided by 2 and then later on you can say a plus 8 divided by 6. So it will not give you an answer because 8 divided by 6 will not be what we call a whole number but a fraction, which is going to be an improper fraction. So therefore it does not work with division. So these are some of the laws that you need to always get to remember in case when you're doing your calculation. So in summary, cumulative only works best with addition and multiplication, and associative only works with the addition as well with multiplication, and distributing only works with addition and multiplication combined together. And then now we can move towards our missing figure. So before we move to missing figure, any question?
Not yet.
No question. Thank you.
All right, and then now we can move to finding the missing figure. So this is where we get to play around with numbers a lot, and this gets to happen a lot within a work environment. Even within ourselves, when you get paid and you start taking a look in terms of how much money did you spend, how much money did you receive, actually your balance is not balancing up to say you don't have the same amount that you expect to have. You are thinking that you're supposed to have a balance of say 10,000, but your balance is saying 9,000. So you are wondering where did my other 1,000 actually went to. So you start calculating to say where is this amount, where did this amount actually went. So that's what we actually say you are finding a missing figure. So this is an example that gets to set us up to say if we can do this example, then we will be sorted in terms of finding x. So normally what they do is that finding the missing figure, the figure can be given any name, any any alphabet to say that find x or find a or find b. So we give that so that we're able to actually get to solve the scenario. So we create the equation by doing that, and then from there we solve the scenario. So if you take a look in the under this activity, it says the following table shows the sales figure in units of 3 different chocolate bars, candy light. So 3 different chocolate bars. We've got candy light, we've got chocolate light, we've got creamy light at a rated outlet during a particular week. So on Monday, this is what we sold in terms of candy light, chocolate, and creamy light. And in total, the sales of all these units are 508 given here. And then on Tuesday, these were the sales that occurred, and the total is 440. But as you're moving forward, you will notice that you have got recorded the number of candy light, you recorded the number of chocolate light, and your total books is saying that you actually sold 508 chocolate and you also sold some cream light, but you don't know how much, you forgot to record those. So for you to be able to find that, you are gonna say the total for Monday minus what, all the other chocolates that you actually sold. It will give you the remaining balance for creamy light. And then sometimes under this one, if you take a look under Thursday, you will notice that on Thursday you didn't record the chocolates that were sold. You also didn't do the balance, but what, because you have got a system, the system is showing that the total from Monday to Sunday you actually sold 3,400,000. So if I was to ask you guys to actually perform this, will you be able to solve all of them?
Yes.
Okay, I see there is an answer on the textbook indicating that. So I'm just going to go through it with you guys, and then we're going to treat the one on the slide. So it says to found the value of creamy light. So we do not know how many units of creamy light were sold on Monday. So let's call this this missing figure in the list of the sales of Monday X. So we can see that it will be 160 plus 220 plus X equals to 508. So therefore we solve for X. So when you solve for X, you remove everything from the left side to the right side until X is left alone. Therefore, whatever value you find that side will be the value of X. So under our scenario, when we do that, we find the value of X being 128. And then again, moving forward, we're going to do the same for Tuesday when we look for chocolate. And then for Wednesday, we're going to do the same. Friday, we're still going to do the same because we have got the total and we've got the other two. But for Wednesday, so what we do for Wednesday is that we look for an option that we can be able to use to solve for one of these. So the best option to do to solve the one for Thursday is to only use the total first, because we have got all totals for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as well as the total of the whole week, including the Thursday missing figure. So what we're actually gonna do is that we're gonna say 3,400, which is the total for the whole week, minus all the total from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Whatever will be remaining, it shows that it will be the missing figure of all the chocolates that we sold from Thursday. So therefore that amount we're gonna place it here. So here below it actually indicated to say that if we referred the missing balance for Thursday as Y, so we could go and say that Y is equal to 3,400 minus 508 minus 440 minus 412 minus 480 minus 580 minus 524, meaning that it's equal to 456. So meaning that the total sales for Thursday it's 456. Now that we have got the total and we've got the other two elements, we can actually get to solve for the one missing element, which is the chocolate light. And then from there, we can calculate the missing figure on Saturday. Once we've got the missing figure on Saturday and we've got the missing figure for chocolate on Tuesday, so when we calculate the total for chocolate sold during the whole week, if you check, we're gonna have to calculate this missing figure here, which we're gonna do, and then this one then, and then the one for Saturday using the Saturday column, and then the one for Sunday we're gonna apply the same principle to go and say 1,400 minus all the ones that we'll calculate for the rest of the day, and then we're gonna get the one for Sunday. And we're gonna do the same in terms for this one here. Therefore, since we're gonna calculate the creamy light already, so which is 128, so if we calculate the one for Sunday, we're just gonna say the total of creamy light sold minus the one for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Therefore, whatever balance will be remaining will be for Sunday. So those are what we call finding the missing figure. So with that in mind, can you please perform this activity for me? I'm gonna give you guys 7 minutes. Calculate the value for A, B, C, D, E, F. You don't have to follow the order of calculating, but just calculate the value. Do not follow the order of alphabeticals. Just solve for all of this alphabet without following the order. Okay, I'm gonna give you 6 minutes and you can do that. Are you writing?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm writing.
All right. So this is bright light media quarter sales figure for advertising slot So we have got a big screen. So for those who advertise for 1.5 minutes, under January we have got 25 people who actually ran for that slot. And then 3 meter in January we do 3 minutes. We don't know how many, but we do know that for 3.5 we had 40. For those who came in for 5 minutes slot and buy a slot for 5 minutes on January we're 25, and then the total we don't know. But if you get to read all the information, you can be able to get the figures. So 5 minutes are remaining, and then we solve those one out. Are you done?
I'm
Not
just double
yet.
checking my answers.
How many left?
Just one more to go, I have.
And Tembelish, how many left?
Two more to go.
All right, I think you'll be covered in the remaining 4 minutes. Okay, are we done?
Okay, I'm done.
I'm also done.
Okay, okay, I'm not gonna ask you for the answer, but I'm just gonna ask you each individually something. Let's start with temperature. Which one did you started to solve for?
The total for 1.5 minutes.
The total for 1.5 minutes, followed by which one?
And then, okay, I solved E, right?
Yeah.
And then I solved A. And then I solved F.
Okay.
And then I went to C. And then I did D. And then B.
Okay, and Ruby, how did you solve this?
I started with E and then I went to A and then B, C, D, F.
Okay, let's get the value for E.
79.
Yeah, I also got 79.
Okay, correct. And the value for A
33.
Yes, also 33 on my side.
and value for B.
For B,
Yeah.
I got 123.
Same.
And C
55.
C, 55, yes.
and F
137.
137, yeah.
and D.
15.
Same.
So was it challenging or just normal?
It was normal until I got to F and then I thought I hit a wall, but then it was fine.
So it's sort of like solving a mini puzzle.
Yeah, because if you don't do the one equation first, then you're not gonna get the answer for the other. And
Yeah.
Yeah, so in finance, these are some of the things that you come across when you're working with numbers or when you're working with money. So you might find a challenge solving one, but and another challenge solving another, but you find that once you solve one, that one will lead to you being able to solve the other one. So normally we always have either a miscalculation of an amount, either there is a missing transaction not recorded, or there is a transaction that was recorded but it was recorded incorrectly. So when you resolve this, you'll be playing around missing figures and recorrecting amounts. So normally on your assessment, I believe there will be something that will be similar to this that will get to make your mind to actually work a little bit. So this is how finding the value of x. So normally we used to do this in high school, if you still remember, solving for x. 3x minus 5 equals to 16, and they say ask you to say find the value of x. So this is the same as what you guys were actually doing. So it's just that on this side you have been given all the information to be able to solve, but under this side you're only given information for a specific block. For example, I can go and say 34 plus 40 plus C plus 20 equals to 149 and say solve for C. So it's the same as what is actually happening here, this side. So it's actually solving for C, but without having all the other data, but you can actually be able to get the other data. So under this one, it's the steps that you need to follow are that you need first to isolate X and make sure that x remains on one side. If it have got a whole number attached to it, x with that whole number will have to be left on one side and the rest will have to be on the other side. So we actually get to make x the subject of the formula. So we're going to take this to the other side, meaning that we're going to add 5 to both sides. This side is going to be 0 and that side is going to be plus 5, meaning that we're going to have 3x equals to 16 plus 5, giving us 3x equals to 21. And then for us to remove this x, so if it is multiplying the value of x, so therefore we have to divide it by 3. But if it, let's say for example, it wasn't like that, it was x over 3, it's equals to 21. So if you want to cancel this from this side and it's actually dividing, you cancel by multiplying this by the same value and this side by the same value. So what actually happens is to say this will be 3 over 1 multiplied by x over 1. So meaning that it's going to say 3 over 3 multiplied by x giving us 3x, and then 3 multiplied by 1 giving us 3. So 3 divided by 3 giving us 1x. But that side will be 21 multiplied by 3, so that will actually give us 63. So that will be our answer if it was in this form. So do you guys understand?
Yes.
Okay, and now comes the average part. Calculating the average. So missing figures are not that bad, but sometimes they can be a bit tricky. And then in terms of calculating the average, so we only calculate the average to actually get to find the quickest way of finding the mean or the most repetitive number within. So if we're not using the average for that, we're actually trying to see the performance that most student actually falls within, to say that based on the performance of the student, these are the pass rate, this is the average pass rate, meaning that majority manage to reach 40% or 50%. So that's what we're actually getting to try to look into. So here it says that the average of a set of number can be calculated by taking the total sum of the number and divide this sum by the actual number of numbers in the set. So if you take a look at the numbers below, so we're actually saying you add everything that is here and then you count divide by the numbers which is at the number of set, to say that this is one, the numbers that are here 1 2 3 4 5. So meaning that you then divide by 5 to get the average. So but the average that you're gonna get, it will be based on what figures that you are seeing. So you can still have to convert this back to percentage if it's not yet to percentage, based on the base that is there. So if you calculate on this and you get 74 or 73, so since everything is in percentage, therefore it's gonna be already under percentage average. But what I'm gonna show you on the other one is to also convert it from normal figures to percentage. So here is in the example, it says that a student scored the following marks for 5 tests during a semester. The test score carry an equal weight. So test 1, we have got 100%, scored 100%. Test 2, 80%. Test 3, 60%. Test 4, 51%. Test 5, 79%. And they say the test score carries the equal weight, contributing towards what? The what we call a year mark. So all of them contribute the same percentage equaling to year mark. So meaning that if this is contributing towards the 100% of the final mark of year mark, therefore we need to calculate the average of all of these contributions. So how much is each contribution, or how much is the average the student actually got to score on both the test. So if we use the student year mark is to determine the average score for the 5 tests, this will be as follows: 100 plus 80 plus 60 plus 51 plus 79. All of this will be divided by 5. 5 being the number of the numbers that were actually adding up. So since these are all in percentage, the final amount will be given the percentage. So we're gonna go and say 100 plus 80, that's 180, plus 60, that's gonna be 240, plus 51, that's gonna be 291, and then plus this, we're gonna have something close to 300 and something. So therefore, we're gonna go and say divide by 5, and then it's gonna give us 74. So since everything is in percentage, so we're gonna say this is 74%. And then if thus the student has achieved the 74 year mark, now let's assume that the year mark counts only 50% towards his final mark, and that the student scored 84 in the final examination. So if you are working with only two numbers and you want to calculate the average of the two numbers, and both each numbers have got the same weight, it is the same as actually just adding the numbers and dividing them by 2. So that's how easy it is to actually get the average of two numbers that have got the same weight. But if they don't have the same weight, meaning that you'll actually get to calculate the contribution of the other and the contribution of the other one. If it was 60-40, therefore we'll have to calculate 60% or 40% of this and 60% of the examination mark. But if both of them hold 50-50 towards his final mark, So therefore it's just best to add them together, divide by 2, and we're gonna get to the same amount. So let's start by doing the addition. So if we add the two score together, 74 plus 84, that's 158, and when we divide it by 2 we get 79. But if we go and use our calculator and go and say 74%, that's 74%, I'm just gonna say it's percent. Let's calculate 50% of that towards this final mark. So 74 out of 100 multiplied by 50, so that will be 37%. That is actually contributing from his year mark. And then they said that he actually scored how much? He scored 84, so we still have 37. So 84 out of 100 multiplied by another 50, that gives us 42. So if we go and say 42 plus 37, it's gonna give us 79. So coming back to the point that I mentioned, that if you are calculating the average of two values and they both have the same share or the same value or the same weight towards the final calculation, therefore just divide by 2. And if all the numbers, let's say we are calculating the average of the student and this student scored 80 on all the tests, so the average that this student score will just be exactly 80. So it becomes 80. So that is the rule that gets to be applied within the calculating the average. Because if you say 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 and then divide say by 5 to say that, you're still gonna get 80. So that will be the average. It won't need for you to actually get to use your calculator. So let's take a look into the example here below on the screen. So this is the class test for April 2022. And we've got the student numbers. We've got 5 students, 22 in 1, student 1, student 2, student 2, 3, student 4, and student 5. And then their attendance over the past 10 days. Student number 1 attended both class. Student number 2 only attended 8 times out of 10. Student number 3 attended 4 times out of 10. Student number 4 attended 9 times out of 10. Student number 5 attended 3 times. So the total number of attendance of all the students in combined is 34. So therefore this is 34 out of how much? 10, 10, 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, which is 50. So this is 34 out of 50. So when we calculate the average, we're going to say 10 plus 8 plus 4 plus 9 plus 3, all of this divided by the number of students. So these are the student attendance. So it's gonna be 34 divide by 5, giving us 6.8. So this 6.8 will be out of 10 because the number is out of 10 days. So this is the first type of average you calculate. So this 10 is meaning that from all the 5 students based on the previous 10 days, the average attendance over the first 5 days is 6.8. So if you are rounding this, you can round it to the nearest 7 to say that majority of students actually attended 7 out of 10 days. So if you check, this one attended over 7 or at over 6, this one attended over 6, this one attended over 6, only 2 did not attend over 6. So this gives a close accuracy to say that based on all students, majority attended 6 out of 10 days or 6.8 days. And then when you calculate the average into percentage, you use this one to say that, okay, we got an average of 6.8, but what was the base of the calculation? So it was over 10 days. So therefore, you're going to go and say 6 out of 8 divide by 10 and then multiply by 100, giving you 68%. So I want you guys to just do the one for section A, section B, section C. Section A, it was out of 50 marks. Student 1 scored 38, student 2 26, just like that, and the total marks of all students combined are 147 within this section. And for section B, it was used to be 30 marks, and this is how much the student scored. And then section C, this is actually how much the student scored, and therefore the total marks that this student scored on the first test that was written in April, it's 85. So this is the total mark that the student got, so it's 85, and then for this one 67, and then 57, and then 59, and then 48, and then this is the total for all the students. So please calculate for me the average and the average in percentage for all of these sections. When you're done, just let me know that you're done. Are you close?
I just wanted to double check, is it only section A, B, and C that we must solve for?
Yeah, you can solve only section A, B, and C, and then I'll see from there if you got everything right, and if not, then we'll just do the whole table.
Okay. Okay, I'm done.
Timbilishi,
I'm not done yet.
okay.
Are we also doing section B and C?
Yeah, we are supposed to do section A, B, and C. But if you have done A correctly, then I believe you'll be able to do the rest. So let's start with A. So how much did you get as an average?
5.8.
How much?
5.8.
5.8.
Mm-hmm.
And as a percentage?
58.8%. Don't know if that's correct.
I got 58.8% as well.
But what was the average?
Oh, the average was 29.4.
Okay, and Tembelishi, you said your average was?
My average is 5.8.
No, it can be 5.8. What did you do when you calculate the average?
Okay. It is 5 times 50, ne? And then I got 25, 250. And then I divided that 250. Let me just do it again.
Okay, so the correct method ne, to calculate it. So when you calculate average, you check the numbers that you're adding, including the base. So here it's section A and it's out of 50, meaning that all of these numbers that you're seeing here up to 5, they are out of 50.
Yeah.
So meaning that this is 38 out of 50, this is 26 out of 50, 23 out of 50, 40 out of 50, and 20 out of 50, and all of them total are 147. So the quickest way to do that, you're going to add all of them and say divide by the number of students. So these are the student marks. Then it will actually give you an average. So that will actually be an average to say that what is the average of the student marks. And then you can also use this 147 out of. Since this is all out of 50, you can go and say 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50, which is your 250. Then you can go and say
Yes.
147 divided by 250. And then
Yes.
you multiply that by 50.
Oh.
Then it will give you the average. So that will be 147 divided by 250. Then it's going to come back to this is based on all the marks, but we are looking in terms of 50. That's going to be 29.4.
So can you just repeat that? So it's 5.8.
So that amount that you get, so you are saying 147
Yes.
divide by 250, which is the total of all of these.
Yeah.
So they are all out of 50, meaning that when we add, the total is going to come back to 250. So, and the total of all the marks are 147.
Yes.
So when you say it equals to, you're going to get sort of like a ratio of this piece of this total mark out of 250 to say that it's 0,588. But remember, this ratio is based on 250 marks.
Yes.
And we want to calculate the average per out of 50 to say that what is the average did the student perform on. To say
Okay.
that, okay, the student managed to score somewhere between 20 plus or minus 20. So therefore, we're going to multiply this back to 50, this ratio back to 50 to get accurate of out of 50. So meaning that we get 29.4, meaning that student managed to score somewhere between plus or minus 29 out of 50. So meaning that there are those that are below 29 and there are those that are above 29, but majority are above what? The 29.
Okay.
Yes, and then from this one, 29 out of 50. 9.4 out of 50 multiplied by 100 gives you the 58% or 59% if you round it to the nearest percent, which you get it right. So that one that you got is the ratio in terms of percentage because you're already calculating based on total figures.
Okay.
Yeah, so and then the one for Ruby, that's the one based on out of 50, and then she converts the one from out of 50 to percentage, which is still exactly leading to the final answer, which is the same.
Okay.
And then we've got the powers and exponential. So under the powers and exponential, they read as follows on the textbook. So it says the use of a power is a quick way to represent the same number that is being multiplied by itself several times. For example, if we're saying 5 times 5 times 5, so this is the same as 5 to the power of 3. So we call it to the power of 3. Same applies to say 5 times 5, so it's the same as 5 squared, as long as there are two numbers. If there are 4 5s, it's the same as 5 to the power of 4. If it's 6 times 6 times, to say 6 times 6 times 6 times 6, but 6 times, we're going to say this is 6 to the power of 6. So those are your powers, or what we call to the power. This is an exponent. So this value here, we call it an exponent. And then when we call it, we're going to say 5 to the power of 3. And where this exponent, it's actually a fraction. So it leads to us having sometimes what we call a square roots. So which I'm going to explain at a later stage. So here it says that when you multiply two variables with the same base, you can add the exponent. To say that if you have got an exponent where you've got x to the power of m multiplied by x to the power of n, so you can just actually go and say x is equal to the power of m plus n. I'll just give an example using to say, let's replace x to the power of m by 5 to the power of 2, and then say x to the power of n, to say that is gonna be 5 to the power of 3. So meaning that is the same as going and saying 5 to the power of 2 plus 3, giving us 5 to the power of 5, which is gonna give us how much? Let's see how much that's gonna give us. So that's 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. I don't have my other calculator. Let me see if I can grab one this side, because that's now a very big value. So 5 to the power of 5, it's actually 3,125. But remember I said, we said it was 5 to the power of 2. So if we go and say 5 to the power of 2, that's 5 times 5. That's giving us 25. And if we say 5 to the power of 3, that's gonna be times another 5, giving us 125. So it's the same as saying 25 multiplied by 125, giving us 3,125. So you can see the simplification. So this is the first rule in terms of multiplication of exponents. And then this simplifies the following: x to the power of 2 multiplied by x to the power of 4, it will be x to the power of 2 plus 4, giving us x to the power of 6. Just almost close to the same example that I gave you. But where the base are not the same, for example, to say x to the power of 4 multiplied by y to the power of 3, this cannot be, we cannot add the 2. So we cannot simplify this and add the 2. And then rule number 2 is that when you have an exponent expression that is raised to the power, you can multiply the exponent and then the power. So which means that, for example, here we've got x to the power of m, all of in brackets to the power of n. So this is our exponent, this is to the power. So meaning that it's the same as going and say x multiplied by, is the same as x multiplied by n times n, giving us x mn. So if this was 2 and this was 4, we're going to say x to the power of 2 times 4, giving us 8. So meaning that it's x to the power of 8. So here there is an example that they've indicated below. And rule number 3 is that if you have a product inside the parenthesis and a power on the parenthesis, then the power goes to each element inside. So to say that if we have got yx to the power of n, therefore when we simplify this, this will be y to the power of n and x to the power of n. For example, given here to say xy squared is equals to multiplied by 3 will be simplified as xy squared, xy multiplied by itself 3 times. So therefore everyone will be x3 and y6, because this one is having a 2. So this will be 2 times 3, giving us 6. So, or a simplest format can be given as this one for y. And another example is when there is a fraction, to say x over y 2 all in brackets to the power of 2. So it's the same as to go and say x squared divided by y squared in simplification, because this one will be, so any number itself is to the power of 1, and any number itself is already divided by 1. So that is the simplification. So therefore, if we're having x like this, we're gonna say x, we're gonna say 1 times 2, giving us x to the power of 2, and then y, this one is y to the power of 1, which still give us y, and therefore it's gonna give us y to the power of 1 times 2, therefore giving us 2. So any number to the power of 1, it's gonna be that number, and 1 to the power of any number, it will still remain 1. So it's like to say 1 times 1 million, 1 to the power of 1 million, it will still be 1, because you are multiplying 1 itself again million times, so it's still gonna be 1, it won't change. So that is the rule. And then anything to the power of 0 would always be 1, equal to 1. So if you say 2 to the power of 0, that's equals to 1. Like this whole example here, if all this example everything is in bracket and it all says to the power of 0, whatever it's inside doesn't matter, it will all become 1, because everything have to be multiplied to the power of 0, leading us to having 0 as an exponent, and therefore that means that everything to the power of 1 or having an exponent as a 0 becomes 1. So that is rule number 4. And then the rule number 5 is the one that I explained, that 1 to the power of any equals 1. So it doesn't matter whether it's 1 to the power of 10, 1 to the power of million, it will still be 1. And rule number 7 is that a power can be a negative value, and the negative sign can represent what we call a reciprocal, meaning that if it says -1, it is the same as saying 1 out of 3. So if it says 3 to the power of -2, is the same as saying 2 out of 3. So that's what we're actually saying. So this minus get to give us 1 out of. So like example, you have to say that 3 to the power of -3. So this negative we convert it to 1 over 3 to the square root of 3 to the power of 3, giving us 1 out of 27, meaning that the value for this, it's the same value for this one. And I believe that is the last rule in terms of finding the exponent and the roots. So here are some of the more examples which I believe we can actually get to perform them. And if you get any challenges, please let me know. So these are the summary of all the rules. Say if you have a product inside a parenthesis and a power on the parenthesis, then the power goes on each element inside. So this is an example, and then we have got others listed as well. If we have got 36 to the power of 1 over 2, 1 over 2 is equal to a square root, so it's the same as saying square root of 36. And if we have got 36 to the power of 1 out of 3, that's the same as cubic square root 3. If you remember that one on mathematics, I want to see if I do actually have it within here in this calculator. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be having it, but if I do have it, I'll show it to you. So okay, this is just currently open. So I wanted to show you that if it says -1, so the negative represent 1 out of 1 over 1 over. Every time you see 3 to the power -1 or 3 to the power -2, just change the negative and say 1 over 3 to the power of that number. So the one that I'm referring to is this one. So if you have got 3 to the power of 1 out over 3, so it's the same as the cubic root of that number. So this can be simplified to say this is exactly the same as this. So it is the same as 5 to the power of 1 over 3. So if we were to say equals to, it will say 1.07. So it's the same as doing this and say 5. So we're gonna still get the same amount. So that's how the function gets to be converted. And then we've got the mental arithmetic. This one we've already covered it in lesson 2, I think lesson 1, where I did mention the mental arithmetic, which allows you to be able to calculate and do calculation at a fast pace. So if you check the one on page 74, you'll be able to see that they are just always explaining the same thing that we explained last time. But this time they've expanded the mental arithmetic to bigger numbers instead of only the table of 12. So if there are no questions, I'm going to give you guys this time to ask any question that you have. Do you have any question?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, if you don't have any question, then Tembetlile?
I don't have any questions, but I think I should like practice when I get home, just to make sure I get it correct.
No problem. So this is the end of lesson 5. So I'm just gonna give us 15 minutes, and then after that we'll do lesson number 6. So meaning
Okay.
that we're gonna start our class at 20 past 8.
Okay.
So take a break, stretch your legs, and have something to eat, drink something, and then we're gonna come back at 20 past 8.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Not a problem. Noted. Ruby has got a load shedding from 8 to 10, so it's the same as mine. But if she can't join, then I'll see what to do.